let's say, eventualities which aren't that, hopeful. So yeah, the main thing is theories were brought and then safely transferred to the units who are both in the Eastern Front and the Southern Front. And right now, those prototypes are being tested and improved while we even speak. And then hopefully that's going to be the next stages when the operators will continue giving their feedback, which they're doing all the time with the engineers, and engineers will help improving on and on and on, since the war is changing and the conditions are changing. Yes.
Let me ask you some questions so we can bring some better context, because you just know too much about this. So tell us and give us an example. Let's go flash to bang. Let's say one of our listeners, Maria Report, or anyone on the internet sees the Maria Aid thing, website or whatever, and or we do another Fury drive, and we say, boom, we're going to buy another Fury, and all of a sudden we kick off, and we get to the point where this pretty awesome drone, we get enough money to buy it, okay? And then the team at Maria Aid buys it. How to just quickly go through from flash to bang. We get the money for the Fury. Someone physically pays for it at Maria Aid. It gets delivered where? Somewhere in Poland, somewhere in Ukraine, and then from there, what happens? Do the people who receive it we don't need to know who exactly, but they get it, they test it. Like, can you tell us, like, how quickly does that Fury get to the field to help Ukrainians protect themselves?
Well, once the payment is sent, once the money are donated and the Maria Aid has enough to send those to the manufacturers, it's gonna take like a matter of week and a half to do those. I suppose having enough of the materials and have enough of spare parts to do that. Then
so they're made custom.
Yes, they are custom made. Yeah. Then the engineers or the operators of the engineers or the staff get to Ukraine physically. They come to Ukraine, having all paperwork done by Maria Aid and by manufacturers, and then they come to base where are the operators. The drones, UAVs are transferred, like just given away, let's say, to the operators who signed for that. And then from that moment, they are on a balance and an account of the unit, and they go straight to the front line or the further range for the training, and they are already in action in the theater, so to say.
So the ones that Maria had already bought, for the ones that are our listeners, the ones that they've paid for already, they're in Ukraine protecting Ukrainian people.
They are.
Incredible. I don't mean to sound, I don't want to be too emotive, but I want you, for those who message me, and I get a lot of messages that this is stressful for me, the whole thing, what's going on in Ukraine, seeing pictures of children being murdered, a little girl with Down syndrome cut to shreds, her mother almost dead. I don't know what happened to her. She was in critical condition. The reality is, what drives me to be here all the time and commit outside of my day job, every bit of waking minute, hour I have, and I have young, small children, and I take care of them. Right now, my wife has them at the park, so I'm here talking to you. When I look at those scenes of death and destruction, when I see videos of dead bodies tied up and shot in the head, and the Russians laughing about it on their TV, and it triggers memories of relatives telling me about the Holocaust. I see that and I feel helpless and angry and pissed off. I feel all these emotions. But one of the things is when, I don't have much, but I donate my time, but I'll send $100. I'll do something, and I know that money is going to that drone. And I know in a week, that drone's going to be helping a Ukrainian protect his family or her family. And that's the power of what we're doing here. We can't do everything. We're not buying 100 Bayraktars to send there. We don't have millions of dollars. But together, $20, $50, $5, all that really, really makes an impact. And for Lane, She's been off for a bit. People say, what happened to Ferlane? What Ferlane's been doing is she's been organizing drones and NVGs for Maria Aid entering the country to do the business. So she's offered to come back and spend a bit more time, because we need Ukrainian voices like hers, where she can tell us what's going on. Because I want people not to become disconnected from the reality of what is going on. I don't want people to feel helpless if I can help it. If the timbre of my Canadian voice helps you feel more comfortable in helping Maria Aid, then great. Because all we're trying to do is stop a genocide. We have no power outside that. We're not going to fight in a war, but a few dollars here or there to Maria Aid, it helps save lives. It helps protect a country from a genocidal maniac. And if you're unaware, or you're not sure, or you're on the fence, which you shouldn't be, but if you are, just turn on a TV, watch Russian news with subtitles. They talk about Ukrainians. The foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, outright saying, we're going to invade more of Ukraine now. They have weapons that can defend themselves, so we're just going to have to take 3 other oblasts. These guys are nuts. They are the modern day Nazis. But unlike the Nazis of past, they're incompetent. They're actually not good at what they do. Someone said, why don't they have death camps? And Konstantin, a Ukrainian soldier, veteran living in the States now, said they're not able to industrialize. They're not very good at much. Talking, they got a mouth on them, that's for sure, but they can't do much. We're not going to sit by and watch another genocide. We will have whoever, if you have recommendations for people you'd like to come up and speak, whether it's your local, elected official, whether it's someone you know from Ukraine, please do contact Axel or Battlemoose. They are the coordinators for the speakers channel and for the moderators. We'd love to have you. And Ferlane, will you promise to be here more often? Will you take some time away from all that good work you're doing in Ukraine? Ferlane's in Ukraine. She's the conduit between Maria Aid and the Ukrainian army. Will you be able to come in more often? Is that something we can ask of you?
Gladly, when I have a chance, I will always pop up here. Sure.
All right, I'm going to hold you to it. Thank you so much. There are a lot of people wanting to come up to talk. It's a bit of a madhouse. Jon Stewart, my favorite singer and entertainer. I haven't spoken in a while. I'd like you to come up. And Francis, thank you. Oh boy, we're trying to add everyone here. I think I'm going to have to bring up my second favorite Irishman, David Farrell. And let's go to Ricardo. He says,
and we need more Scottish voices.
We need more Scottish voices. David is not Scottish. That's harsh.
Oh, I don't have a Spanish accent. Hey, Ferlane, it's been a long time. When we started out, and you were Kiev was in those early days, and you were staying up late and not eating. We'd have to remind you to eat. It's so good to see you back.
I'm still not eating. Some habits are with me.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, in the early days, we had a lot of people. There was just a few of us up speaking at that time, and I just remember those times. And we do miss you. And it's like Yehuda said, it's when you can come back. We love hearing your voice, your perspective. That's really what I wanted to say. I've been here the whole time. I know you've been in and out. I see you sometimes listening, but it is so great to hear your voice. And I just really appreciate what you did in the early days and just the hours you spent. I think at one time, what was the longest you did?
I think like 25 hours. I don't recall.
Yeah, I think
25.
It was about
25.
It was about 25 hours. I remember that because I fell asleep and you were DMing me to wake up.
I was listening.
In my defense, it was like when you restart the space, you can send some like 20 to 30 DMs to people who you've spoken with the invitation. So I had no clue that you were speaking, but yeah. Anyways, it's good to be back and see some familiar faces, and thanks for checking on me. A lot of people have done that. Yeah, like I have changed my location for a bit right now. I'm in Kyiv. I've been here for a month, so it's slightly surreal.
All right. Well, that's all I wanted to say. It was good to see you. And, back then we didn't have as many subject matter experts as we do today. So I've kind of just stepped down and let these guys talk. But it's just so great to see you. And I'm glad everything is well. Hope your family is well. And I just appreciate all you've been doing all this time to support Ukraine and Myriad. And again, we're not trying to pull on heart sleeves, but it is very easy to do. To give $1, give whatever you can. If you have PayPal, it literally takes you 1 minute to donate. So just, if you will, just do that today.
Thanks so much, Ricardo. We appreciate it, and we're going to see Verlaine more often. We have Ben. We have a new person in the account, Phobo, blah, blah, blah. So egg person. So we're going to go Ben and then egg.
There's some news filtering regarding some Russian troops that could be a bit in a pickle in the south. I was wondering if you had heard about it.
In a pickle or made into pickles?
Well, they're definitely in a jar, if what I'm reading is true, but I'm not quite sure. Can you enlighten me and tell me what's the likelihood of something interesting happening there?
Well, I'm not there, but you have to add vinegar and dill, and then close the jar for a few weeks. Just kidding, Axel. I have been busy in the room.
Sure, no props. Yeah, there seems to.
You know why he's laughing? Because I said pickles. He loves pickles, and he started salivating. He probably's got a steak on the barbecue right now. That man. Go ahead.
I actually finished the steak about 3 hours ago, but thank you. There's no such thing better than salmon or steak. There's two options for protein which matter, but thank you. Apart from the dietary tips, which we are happy to render here, of course, no, there is a little place called, if I pronounce this correctly, and Verlaine may help me, Vysokopilia. And Vysokopilia is a little village north of the Dnipro River on the northern bank, and it's interesting in one regard, because it is essentially the place where the Russian troops have held the line for quite some time, had receded from a little township to the north of it, Serhivka, about a week and a half ago, and then dug in and entrenched. To the west of it is the village of Ivanivka, which many people will have been following already because heavy-duty shelling had been ongoing. And what seems to be the case is now that the Ukrainian troops have managed to go around a little lake, or not such a little lake, to the east of it, and have essentially created a salient, meaning that the Russian troops are currently ensconced directly in that village, in and around that village, actually to the southeast of it, and another part of it to the northeast of it. So there seems to be a double salient there. And that would be the first encirclement in that area, which is no surprise because those Russian troops have been less mobile because their logistics chain has been broken thanks to the HIMARS impact across both Novokhovka as well as throughout the whole area, because this is the tank country, the flat country, which goes all the way up to the northeast to Kryvyi Rih. And this is essentially what CJ and we have all been talking about, that at some point in time, if and when their resources are depleted and they can be cut off, then Ukrainian troops will be able to create salients, encircle them, and take them. And that's what's happening.
Oh, and do we have any idea of what troops and how many are surrounded? Like, is it a large area or is it very small?
It seems to be at least the advanced portion of one BTG mechanized infantry. So it could be, given the fact that many of those BTGs have been reduced to rather close to anywhere between 800 and 1,000. Not a small number.
Yeah, that's nearly 10% of their strength on the theater.
Well, that's a good question. We do not know necessarily what has been in this area all the way up north. I mean, they supposedly had reduced the force strength in the area north of the Dnipro or on that bank side to anywhere between 10 and 15,000. Nobody has any real numbers on the outside. I'm sure that if we can find someone who knows better and who can dig in, we might get better numbers. But you're generally right. This is not a small percentage of what they have in theater in that area.
Currently unaware. Thanks, Ben. Let's go to Egg.
Nothing really clever to say. Just thought that I would add another Scottish voice.
Let's have another Scottish voice. We're going to have to fix your Russian mic because it doesn't work. You need to...
How's that? Better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, no, really, just to say, adding an extra Scottish voice to this evening. I was sitting here waiting for...
It's back again. Can you
January.
please, sir?
Yeah, sorry. Listen, I was waiting for the January 6th committee on the television here. I'm thinking to myself, what a diverse group of people here that kind of gather because we recognise the rising, autocracy in the world, and happy to stand against it. People from all over the world, and then I just noticed that the speaker that was a couple before me was on the other coast of a tiny little island in the Atlantic. That was seats for him. Really just another Scottish voice. Thanks for space, all that sort of stuff. Cheers.
All right. Well, thank you. I'll be honest. I don't know if that was a haggis recipe or a statement. Your mic was a little bad. I'm not going to lie, but I would love for you to stick around. And haggis is not bad, apparently.
Maybe he has a haggis whistle.
What a haggis I do.
No, the question was whether you have a haggis whistle.
Oh, no, it's not a whistle. It's more like a kazoo.
Ah, kazoo. Where do you hail from there?
Hamia Elon Lewis. The same as one of your previous speakers there. There's a style of Lewis in the
It's amazing. Well, yeah, no offense, but your connection kind of is poopy. It's not so good. It's hard to hear you. And I'm not sure. You live in the Atlantic? That's wet. Just kidding.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so very much for coming up and heeding the call. A good Scotsman. I appreciate it.
We have another Scottish voice with us, fortunately.
Do we really?
I think we do.
Hello. You rang first, sir?
We ranged. That's
You rang. Yes, I would attempt to translate, but unfortunately I had the same audio issue, Egg. Egg, your mic, I think, is... So I'll change my mic. Is perhaps away from your mouth. Try just using your phone.
a little bit.
Slightly. Just edge yourself closer.
I'll maybe try and restart now.
Try to come back in.
Yeah. But just to prove that it can be understood. Yes, hello, marvellous people of Maria Report. How is everyone this evening?
We are well, thank you, dear.
Thank you very much. Oh no, since you didn't ask, yes, I'm well, thank you very much. Yeah, what a day, what an interesting day. I've noticed some really nice activity on our Maria Report account. We have Rachel who's doing a new little campaign to ask people to match her donations. So if you go to the Walter Report Twitter account, you'll see some...
The Maria Report Twitter account?
Mm-hmm. And you'll see quite a few announcements there, but we have a nice one from one of our listeners, Rachel, and all our other dedicated listeners to perhaps encourage people to, if they'd like to take part in that and retweet, if she's asking people to match her donations. towards Maria Aid. And we obviously support Maria Aid as an online group. What else is going on this evening? You know, I have had so much information today. This is like doing, we had wonderful speakers all day, which I've been listening to as much as possible. I have a reading list, a tabs list to review. Just excellent job, everyone, pulling together such fascinating, varied speakers, you know, all dedicated to the purpose. Now, you've caught me by surprise because I'm reading and speaking at the same time. And I don't know how you do it, Yehuda. I don't know how you do it, Alex. But I'm going I'm going to go back on mute because I'm reading some of this.
I hear you clicking through. You're fast and furiously scrolling down with that. Yeah, burn that wheel right off there, Karen.
Yeah. No, but it's a great job today, and what a week pulling it all together. What would make my Friday night, everyone, is with the new account to support the charity, we're edging closer and closer to 2K. If by tomorrow, so if everyone just goes ham, as they say, and encourage everyone they can to follow. If we hit the 2K, I'll put a little donation myself into Maria Aid.
Did you fall off there?
Carolyn? Darling, we can't hear you. Wait, I'll message her.
We've lost her. We're going to have some other people we're trying to bring up. Crust Hilder we're bringing up. And we have I Like Wendy. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Yehuda. Can I just compliment you on your fantastic co-hosting this evening? It's been a while since I've had the chance to come up here. So it's great to see the Miro report, as it's now called, injected with the same amount of energy and enthusiasm and passion that it's had since the 24th of February in support of saving Ukrainian lives and ensuring that this war comes to the swiftest conclusion to save as many Ukrainians as possible. Thank you to all of your team, Axel and Ben and Fellaine. Thank you to anyone else who are missing out. I'm sorry. You guys have been fantastic. So even though when I'm at work and I occasionally switch on the reports, you're still at it. You're still there with the same passion and vigor and dedication to this historic cause that you always have been. On the topic of pickles, I read that there's a famous saying that goes, happidness is a pickle in both hands. So I don't know what
Awkward.
the heck that means.
Yeah, no idea either.
No, not at all.
Curious, it is.
Perhaps it can be integrated into one of the new Fury drones, considering the success that Ukrainian grandmother had in the early days of the invasion, where she managed to take out one of the... I mean, that drone was probably on its way down to some eco toilet in a back garden somewhere. But yeah, you know, it's a potential weapon system that perhaps Ukraine's allies could consider donating. But yeah, thank you for all the work you guys are doing. And wow, you know, it's tremendous to see 5 months in, the solidarity, the passion, the commitment. You know, there's so many people, I'm sure, who are listening now who don't come up to speak, who have the same passion that you guys do, and we all do, for this cause, which is a war right on Europe's doorstep, which affects not just Europe, but across the world, particularly with regards to the embargo on grain and the Black Sea. Humans are great at finding solutions to problems. I tell my daughter this, you know, that global warming is a big challenge, but humans somewhere are always working on the solutions, and it depends on people with bright ideas and passion and commitment to find these solutions. So thank you for being one of those people. And I've got to go off to work, go to sleep soon because I've got to wake up in a few hours for work. But so I'll drop down. But yeah,
Where are you again?
I'm in the UK, mate.
Oh, yeah, it's late there. Please get some rest. Thank you so very much for your kind words. It does not go unnoticed, and I can tell you surely that the support from dedicated listeners as yourself, it makes the mild discomfort of lack of sleep more meaningful and easier to handle. We really appreciate your support and your kind words. Thank you.
Pleasure as always, Yehuda. Take care. Night.
Bless you, be well. All right, we've got Nightlight, a man not afraid of the dark, but he still has a nightlight just for fun. Go ahead.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm horrible with the jokes. I get it. Yeah.
And I just want to read what she said.
I actually
I'm Sophie, and I'm a small Ukrainian girl. I lost my
do have a nut. So there was yesterday. I think Yehuda was talking about, maybe there's some connections to the snubbing of the Israelis and so on over the last day or so of closing down. I forget the name of the office there, or maybe it was just I don't know, whatever the name of it was. I don't know if it really had anything to do with that. The Israelis have had a arrangement with the Russians, where they'd basically let them, strike any Syrian assets, as long as they didn't go after anything that was Russian. So they're basically watching the Israeli airstrikes coming in, and they don't do anything about it. The Syrian military, which may operate some Russian equipment, including at least 1 or 2 S-300 batteries.
No, stop right there.
Yeah, they may defend.
No, I'm going to correct you. So the Syrians don't operate 1 or 2. All of their equipment is Russian, actually. There's not one thing that's not made in Russia. Maybe some French optics on something.
Oh, no.
And just to clarify, just because I know you didn't get the whole conversation. So the reality is, I won't dress it up, and I won't be coy. The reality is that the Russian air defense systems in Syria are not effective, not only against F-35s, they're not effective against F-16s. And the reality is that the Russians make the claim that we coordinate with the Israelis so that we don't hit their fighter jets attacking terrorist convoys of Hezbollah, rockets sent from Iran, from Damascus into Lebanon, is pretty much a ploy. Why? The Russians want to say that because they sell that equipment to other countries. They are ineffective against Israeli countermeasures. And the whole image that they're doing this to not conflict with Russian air defense systems is a bit of a ruse. So there were some Israeli experts that came up, we were talking about it, and one of them actually just said it outright. I suspect that this agreement to not strike Israeli planes is actually is bogus, because there are about 250 air defense platforms in Syria between S-300s and S-400s. I actually don't know the breakdown between what's operated by Russian personnel and what's operated by Syrian personnel. But in one instance where every anti-aircraft system opened up on an Israeli jet, it didn't hit, it struck the Israeli jet in the last 5 years. So they've flown thousands of sorties over Syria. And when this one sortie they didn't want to go through hit, that Israeli jet was able actually to fly back to Israel and land, although damaged. So what that tells us is the Israelis are acutely aware of Russian air defense systems' capabilities and weaknesses, and they've been able to just basically skirt them. So it's one thing to say we'll organize and coordinate with Russia to fly into Syria and don't hit us, Russia. But let's just say of the 250, only 50 S-400s are operated by Syrians. They're not under any direction by Russia to not fire on Israeli jets. So presumably they are firing. In fact, we know for a fact they have fired. And those missiles have not been able to overcome Israeli jamming or surface to air missile defense systems. In other words, what I'm saying is that the Israelis rule the roost there, and if the Russians want to pretend for the purpose of selling armaments that they're not shooting down Israeli planes just out of desire, the cat's out of the bag. It's not true. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's pretty much well known in military circles, but it's something that's not really talked about a lot. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead, Nightlight.
All right. Well, I mean, you may disagree with it, but what I was trying to get at is, all the air defense there, it is Russian made. Not all of it is Russian operated, and the Syrians have, different rules of engagement than the actual Russians do.
Fair enough. But can I ask you a question? What do you think the chances are that in 5 years, 0 Israeli planes have been shot down by Syrian air defense batteries? Does that not strike you as a little odd? Do you think in every instance they didn't fire?
I don't think the Russians have any desire to get into it with the Israelis.
Syrians. I'm saying Syrians. The Syrian operated.
I mean, the Syrians are shooting SA-2s and SA-5s. I mean, this is like old 70s,
they have
70s,
S-300s
80s
and S-400s.
Well,
no, they have S-300s and S-400s.
And
they have about 50. I said, okay, go ahead. Sorry, I won't speak. Go ahead. Sorry, is that my mic or yours?
No, this is silence. Nightlight? Can you hear us?
Yeah, Nightlight, please come back up. Your mic's down. I didn't mean to interrupt you and steal your flow, but the comments about who owns what in Syria was incorrect, and that's something that I do have information on. And I really would like for you to come back up and finish your question. So we're going to boot you down. Come back up. Let's go to name on the trophy for now.
Good evening, Yehuda. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. And you?
Yes, very well. Thank you. I only popped up to say hi to Axel as a Welshman. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, where's Axel? Oh, okay. He's not here. Well, he's gone. Is your name Jones312 by any chance?
No, that's not me.
That's a joke from the movie Zulu. I'm not sure if you recall it.
Yeah, no. I have seen it, Michael Caine's first ever movie, but
amazing.
It's a little before my time.
Yeah, well, me too, but it's still a must-watch. Great movie. All right, go ahead, Ben.
Thank you.
Well, then we've got the main states of the British Isles. We can move on to Orkney and the Anglo-Norman Islands. And maybe the Isle of Man. More seriously, Yehuda, I've got a question for you. Did you see that this long discussion about the grain trade by sea out of Odessa seems to have reached a conclusion, and something has been signed? So I've got several questions for you. The first one is, do you have any information regarding this? And the other one is, do you know if it's even doable at all because I remember the slight issue of mines and submarines and stuff like that. Yehuda? Okay, I think he must be tending his beard or something. So, what I want to say, yeah, I was very struck today by the discussion with Alexander and Sergey, the two journalists / risk analysts that came and were interrogated by Dom and Axel. They were very clear and, very clear and at the same time very confused by the German position at the moment. You could feel sadness in their voice. They did not understand how the German government could not support Ukraine to that extent. Like not being full in maybe, but this was just sad, and you could hear it in their voice and in their comments. They were sad and dismayed. And this is also something which is very strange, which is that the German government doesn't seem to be selling its position. It says one thing, does another, and never talks about it, which for German government is strange because it's a real denial of democracy. And you thought that of all people, the Germans would respect democracy. If anyone wants to come and speak, we're not biting often, even if Axel has a tiger. It's a very nice tiger. It's more of a puppy than a tiger. And talking about tigers, here comes the monkey, Kronos. You raise your hand, thankfully.
Yeah, hey, I mean, going through these sad times and the trials and tribulations, we have to remember that through hardship, people always are able to grow the best. You know, we're able to be our best selves during times of strife and war. And long term, you look at some of the benefits of the ultimate competition, which is that of war. During the Cold War, America was put on test to make sure that capitalism was able to provide a better way of life and pull people out of poverty by a measure that's never been done throughout human history. But it was only when they were tested, right? And then after the Soviet Union collapsed, there was the ultimate greed. You know, they didn't care if employees took their vacations anymore. They busted all the unions down, all the benefits got swept away, insurance was whittled down to nothing. And this is all a direct result of no longer having to compete with a different ideology other than capitalism.
I'm sorry, you're talking about Russia or you're talking about the United States? I'm just a bit confused.
So both, you know, being under the pressure of the ideals that the Soviet Union used to have, America was able to be its best self. The West, in general, was able to be its best self and provide and make sure that its people were taken care of.
You think it's directly related? That one needs a strategic opponent in order to be... Really?
I do.
Because, for instance, if you take the first country that ever underwent modern growth, which is Britain in the 19th century, except in the early days when they had to face France, the Napoleonic Empire, they did not have a direct adversary that they could build against one another. They could build against up until the arrival of Germany late in the 19th century. So for almost 100 years, you had growth, and not any growth. It was trailblazing growth. They were going in places no one had ever been before, and they did not have a strategic enemy.
I was under the impression that France was still a strategic enemy, all the way up until the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 19th century. 19th century.
And Spain also?
No, Spain was out of the equation by then. and France, you had what do they call that? The Entente Cordiale in, I would say, 1835, something like that. And to the point, and in 1860, you had, it's not a custom union, but there was no more custom between no more tariff between France and England. There was free trade, the Compton Chevalier Agreement. So there was a strong alliance between France and England during most
So
of the
was
19th
that
century.
East India Company that you're talking about that traveled the world and expanded?
No, I'm talking about the British state in the Isles.
Wasn't that a specific corporation though?
No, it was the state. Yep.
Alrighty. Yeah, let's bring up some speakers to the panel here. Battle Moose is coming up. We've got Imperius. Azrael, we were talking about Israel, talking about things the Israeli government could do moving forward. Would love to have an Israeli voice up here to talk about Russian silliness, what it means for the future, what it means for Ukraine. If you could be so kind as to step up, we'd really appreciate it. Maybe Aziz, if you're still around, we have some questions for him.
Yoda, I do have a question for you still regarding Israel. If I'm not mistaken, there's some very efficient PMCs, private military companies in Israel. And I'm not talking about the guys who, take guns and go through doors and shoot people. I'm talking about the guys taking care of tanks and logistics and this sort of things. Do you think there's a chance for anyone to hire them? And if the money was there, or would there be any governmental action that would prevent them from joining the fray in Ukraine as private companies?
If it's private companies, there's nothing that stops them, I assume. Answer is no. Nothing would stop them from joining. I mean, if they're legally registered in the country, it shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, hope that helps explain it. We're bringing up John Ridge, long-time listener, first-time speaker. And just give us a second here. John, welcome back to the panel.
Thank you very much, Yehuda.
We're going to have to do a slight handoff. I have other duties calling, and it'd be great to have you on.
Would be my pleasure.
Now, I want to say that since Maria Report has been kicking off, in a continuation of a previous report, we have had consistently very high numbers. We're very happy to have them. We're very happy to have you here. If you could retweet, like our space, follow the main account, and our hosts. It helps promote overall our cause. As you know, we predominantly support, or only really, we have one organization that we're dedicated to, and that's mariaaid.org. They're in our main account bio. You will only see that from us. Additionally, just because people have asked, none of our hosts or co-hosts will petition, canvass for money. There are no other PayPal or Cash Apps or Venmos or nothing like that. All of us are doing this for free. It is a volunteer effort, and there is no chance. We appreciate your help. We do it because we love the cause of freedom. We support Ukraine and its defense of its territorial boundaries and its integrity, and we want to do our best to stop a genocide. So please do contribute to mariaaid.org if you are so inclined to spend a few dollars. That's where we'd recommend you do it. You will never have a host from Maria Report ask you for funds. They won't canvass you for funds. If someone is impersonating one of us, we want you to know that that's not us. We don't do that. And you could let us know if you do see that. But the truth is, all we do is support Ukraine, and we do it through our voices, speaking truth to power, sharing the plight of Ukraine, to people all around the world. And if you are so inclined again as to share your resources with others, please do so through mariaaid.org. That is our only and preferred choice of assistance for Ukraine. We've got on the panel John Ridge. He is a seasoned Maria Report host and moderator. We've got Ferlane. Ferlane is, she's been here from the beginning with myself. We've been here from the start, watching a genocide unfold as her own country gets raped and pillaged by genocidal fanatics under the guise of Russian protection of Russian speakers, which is a bit of a silly joke. And she's here. Usually she's helping procure equipment and supplies to defend Ukraine. And she has made it clear that she will happily come in and speak with us, even though she's quite busy. So thank you so very much for coming back, Ferlane, and being here with us. In the meantime, we're going to go to Raphael. He's one of our Israeli listeners. Go ahead, Raphael.
Hi, thank you. It's just in reference to what Ben just said, got me thinking. There's one capability or something the Israelis know how to do very well, which is upgrade F-16s. And they do it very, very well. And if Ukraine is going to receive maybe older F-16 models, then I'd love to see them be involved in that, even though we'd probably never hear about it.
True, fair enough. Ben, I don't know where he went. So we'll have to wait for him. Do us a favor, please. Could you please, if you want to speak, we have a lot of timing out speakers that are trying to join the panel, but and we can't add everyone at the same time. So please do request to speak, and we'll have you here. Raphael, when it comes to, you're an Israeli, presumably you're in Israel.
No, I'm in London, as my accent might suggest.
I don't know. You could. I mean, we have a lot of other listeners here. You could be South African. You could be Welsh. No one knows. No, I'm just kidding. I get it. Okay. So here's my question to you. In a perfect world, what would Israel do in addition to these, clandestine operations to help Ukraine?
That's a very difficult question because I don't know all the capabilities that Israel has. There are weapon systems, I guess, which we have, even though I doubt that we have them in significant numbers to firstly keep our own, military in a state of readiness that needs to be in, and also make any significant impact in Ukraine. Definitely cyber, EW is the way. There might even be some, I don't know, maybe tactics to share. Israel's had some success in, sort of large tactical maneuvers in previous wars, but they were a very long time ago. I actually tend to think that the training the Ukrainians have got from the Canadians and the Americans and so on in combined arms is probably far more valuable than anything the Israelis have to offer. But I could be wrong about that.
No, actually, I think you're actually quite right. It's a very fair and intelligent assessment. When it comes to EW and cyber, that's another world, and that's probably where the Israelis could probably best suit the Ukrainians. Thank you for sharing that. John, follow up.
Thank you, Yehuda. One thing I'm particularly interested in is there was a discussion earlier about the effectiveness of either Syrian or Russian-operated S-300 and S-300 and S-400 systems, that are currently deployed in Syria against and their potential engagements with Israeli aircraft. And I'd be very, very curious and hopeful that the Israelis might be sharing a few tools of their trade when it comes to electronic warfare in terms of evading hostile air defense systems.
Go ahead, Raphael.
Yes, I DM'd you there, but earlier on, probably about a couple of hours ago, there was a report of, I think it was the S-400 firing over Damascus, obviously Israeli jets, and not hitting anything. That happens, twice a week. Very, very common. The other thing I wanted to mention is something Israel, had been able to do is do these strikes very far away from their own borders. And they often follow definitely not straight flight paths. They often fly around all kinds of places. The ability to do that, I mean, I'm not an Air Force person at all, but I believe you have to have some sort of way to spoof or, you know, have countermeasures against radar and anti-air systems that exist. And I think that would be very useful for Ukraine, especially, you know, to conduct sort of deep strikes. We've actually seen them do that a few times.
Я считаю, они не военные люди. У них нет чести и достоинства.
Fair enough. All right, sorry, John, go ahead. You have a boo-boo.
Сказали, что у папы собираются уходить завтра и хотят людей, как живой щит, забрать.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Raphael. If I could ask a follow-up to that, in the open source media that I've seen, except until I think one piece that I saw recently, kind of the open source info has been silent on the specific air defense systems that the Syrians and the Russians had been using to engage. You know, Israeli aircraft, it was never specified, you know, in the various public sources I read through, you know, whether it was S-400, S-300, Buk, Tor, or any of the other, you know, Pantsir, or any of the other systems they have. So, or are you saying, oh, we might have lost him. Please give us a minute, folks, while we wait for Raphael to rejoin us. Raphael, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you.
Did you catch the beginning part of my question?
Nothing until now. Sorry.
Okay, let me go ahead and repeat it. The follow-up I was going to ask you was, in terms of the open source publications that I've read through regarding Russian and Syrian attempts to engage Israeli aircraft, all of them seem pretty unclear as to the specific systems that were employed. It was uncertain in the sources I read whether or not, you know, a given system in a particular instance was S-300, S-400, Buk, Tor, Pantsir, etc. So is there, you know, in some of the, shall we say, non-open source information, is there a high degree of confidence that these systems are in fact S-300 and S-400, or, you know, and not some other, you know, say, you know, Russian SHORAD assets, Buk, Tor, Pantsir, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm not privy to anything confidential, but I mean, yeah, sure, you know, they've probably got pictures, close-up pictures of all of these things, probably from the ground and probably from the air. So they probably know exactly what's where. I think in terms of open source, it's fair to assume that certain areas in Syria will have the more advanced systems. So, you know, close to large Russian bases, Damascus definitely. You know, they've got these airport bases all over the country with significant, you know, Russian presence. So I think you can assume that all the good stuff will be centered around there, where they have also good control of it.
Yes, that was the impression that I had as well. There were some of those publications I had mentioned were very confidently proclaiming up until I think a recent engagement that no Russian or Syrian S-300 or S-400 system had ever fired on Israeli aircraft, which, you know, completely disagrees with, you know, what I've heard here from Yehuda and others.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that is literally Russian marketing for the S-300 and 400 systems on the international market. It's been a great seller for them, and I'm sure they've made tons of money selling people anti-aircraft systems that don't work.
I think what the article was specifically claiming was, I don't think they were claiming that Russian operated systems hadn't engaged the Israelis. They were claiming that neither Russian nor Syrian systems had engaged them. But yeah, I mean, either way, the lack of shoot downs certainly does harm their credibility as an air defense asset, which is really funny, unless you're the Turks or the Indians or anybody else that's purchased one of those systems. It's funny for us, though.
Yeah, I'd also add to that whenever you hear the Russians claiming that somebody else was operating the system, I mean, we've heard them make those claims before when it comes to MH17, and that was proven to be just another Russian lie. So take it for what you will.
Yeah, it was in the case of MH17, I believe it was the 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment. They had literally brought the Buk over the particular Buk. I can't remember if it was an M1 or an M2. They had literally rolled it over the border that day, shot down MH17, and rolled back over the border later in the day.
Now, for those missile systems, could those potentially be partially immobilized before deploying to foreign actions? Like, are they deploying the full system?
So that's an interesting question. So in order for an air defense system to work, it's not a single type of vehicle or asset that's involved in the system. It's a collection of different assets. So for a strategic system like S-300, S-400, this is also true of analogous Western systems like Patriot. You'll have your TELs, your transporter erector launchers. Usually, sometimes you'll have TEL-ARs, transport erector launchers, and radars, which are TL.
Так, фактично декілька хвилин тому було завдано ворогом знову з реактивних систем залпового вогню ударів по одному із районів міста Харкова. На місці працюють у посиленому режимі підрозділи ДСНС, екстреної швидкої медичної допомоги і національної відповідно поліції. Тому ми просимо ще раз всіх знаходитися максимально в укриттях, тому що як і вчора ворог обстріляв, так і сьогодні, власне кажучи, людей, які просто були на вулицях, перебували на зупинках, просто і йшли по своїм справам. Вночі так само ворог обстріляв ракетними обстрілами Чугуївський район. Крім того, з реактивних систем залпового вогню були обстріляні Харківський район, Ізюмський район, відповідно Богодухівський район. Ну і у нас активно ведуться бойові дії на лініях зіткнення. Це на півночі, північно-східному і південно-східному напрямку.
Тобто окупанти намагаються наближатися до Харкова, вони не відкинули цієї ідеї?
Цієї ідеї вони не відкинули, і ми це розуміємо із самого початку масштабної агресії, і ми до цього готуємося. І з травня місяця ворог не захопив нової території ані